Hello everyone, Espurr here. Now, what a today game on TC Inkblot. We're watching Orange Team. How about that? Another one of these. Alright, so looking at the team, or looking at the comp, it sucks. Yeah, so it has terrible paint right now. I'll let the game go, but they're massively outcomped. So I think it'd be a good idea for me to explain the effects of having low paint on a comp, because having low paint on a comp is really bad. It's extremely bad. So, oh, actually, I'm supposed to be watching like this. There we go. Oh, I can't hide that ever. Anyways, so having low paint on the comp, what it means isn't just that, oh, we're going to be a little bit weaker on the fights because we can't move as much. No, it means that your pushes are going to be weaker. Not just that, because they're weaker, that means that you have to either push up less so that you can paint the same, you can have the same quality of paint, or you push up the same amount and simply just accept you're going to be weaker on the fights, which then means you're, less likely to win that fight because your pushes are weaker and all that stuff, because you have less paint, you can't move as much. And keep in mind, if you can't move as much, that means the enemy has so much movement. Because in this game, you either, when you paint, you both give yourself more places to move and the enemy less places to move. So if you're restricted, then the enemy is really free flowing. They can go wherever they want. They can do whatever they want. Here's the thing. So because your defenses are weaker, that also means that, or not defense, your offense is weaker. That also means that, you die, you go back to your base and all that stuff, and now the enemy is in your plat or something like that. So what that means though is if you die there again, which has a fair chance of happening, what will happen is now you're back at your spawn. And let's say you do win that fight, because your pushes are so weak and slow, that means they are stealing tower. How did that happen? They're stealing tower. There was a fight about to be won over there, but now the machine has to go because they stole tower. We were also going to see in this game that the try is going to be flanking a lot. Even if they still had this orange team had a lot good paint, good comp, all that stuff, they would be getting caught up by the try a lot. It just doesn't seem like they're learning, and basically they see the try is flanking a lot. They're susceptible to it, but it feels like they aren't adapting their gameplay accordingly. Regardless, so back to the paint thing. So if you lose 2 fights and you're in your spawn, now you win. Let's say you win the fight and you get out of your spawn. That's cool. That's neat and all. But here's the thing. So, how far can you really push up? Can you push up back to mid and have your spawn painted? The answer is no, not for this comp. This comp can't really do that. It doesn't paint enough. The only weapon here that can paint is the splash. And even if the splash could paint for both a leader and a roller, they also have a splash. They can do the exact same thing. So there's no way a splash can both paint for your team and also outpaint the enemy. That's the other thing. You're not just trying to paint for your team. You're also trying to paint against the enemy. So you can't make sure that your paint is too bad in relation to the enemy. And keep in mind, the enemy can get some really good paint. Honestly, if the enemy just goes triple splash and machine, that's extremely good paint. This comp would immediately die to that. Now let's see. Here's how you. There's also one more thing I want to point out. So with if you have less paint, what that means is that your special outputs are going to be much weaker. So not only are your pushes going to be weaker because you can't secure as much area as well, you just have less opportunities to push because you have less specials. So because of that, No, you're basically just setting up for a loss, really. If you have really bad paint, you just kind of lose just at the start of the game. The orange team was saying that they had problems with pushing in, and the reason why they had problems pushing in was because they have low paint. And that matters in all the reasons I listed before. Now, here's the thing though. Okay, I railed on them for 5 minutes, telling them why having low paint is bad. Now you know that. But how do you prevent your own comp from having low paint amounts of paint? I'll tell you. I have a little rule of thumb that I always give everyone that I tend to think works out pretty well. The lowest amount of paint you can go is 2 paint positive weapons, 1 paint neutral weapon, and 1 paint negative weapon. If you go any lower than that, your comp is going to suffer in those problems I listed before. So, what weapons are paint positive, negative, neutral? Paint positive weapons, I'll give some examples, are weapons that can paint for themselves and others really well. Think of like all short range shooters. Think of like most dualies. So like splash, splat dualies, T-Tech. That's about it. Oh yeah, what's called? What's the bad? Not the what's called? The newest roller. It was it's not Flingza. It's regardless the new one. In quotes. And then paint neutral weapons would be like sloshers. Sloshers tend to be paint neutral. It's like machine. Pro would be neutral. So like the mid-range shooters. And then what else? Splatlings tend to be paint neutral, except not. Not is paint negative. Paint negative and paint neutral weapons are basically weapons that can only really have enough paint for themselves and cannot paint for other weapons. There's absolutely no way they can do that. Paint negative weapons are weapons that need other weapons to paint for them. Otherwise, they're just going to lose territory. Weapons like that are pretty much all chargers except bamboo and squiffer. Then there's for example, a splat charger would be that. Then there's what's called blaster. So the blasters, blaster would be that. And then what's called rollers would also be that. So take carbon roller, for example. If you have a weapon that I didn't mention and you're wondering, okay, how much does this weapon paint? Are they paint positive, negative, or neutral? Well, take one of the weapons that I listed before as an example of positive, negative, neutral. Just as a quick side, if you want one weapon to represent, I'd say positive, splash, neutral, machine, negative, carbon. And then determine, okay, which weapon paint output closest matches the paint output of my weapon. There you can determine your painting output. And from there, this is a quick reminder, make sure you have at minimum 2 paint positive, 1 paint neutral, 1 paint negative, and your comp shouldn't suffer paint problems. That'll be for today though. I talked a lot. See ya.